Imagine that you've spent months or even years thinking that you're the weak one in your relationship, that you're the dependent one, the one who overwhelms, the one who needs, the one who chases. And suddenly, in the most difficult moment, it turns out that you're the one holding it together out of the two of you. Actually, it's your partner, the one meant to be strong, who has fallen apart.
I'm getting out of here.
I can't take it anymore. I don't understand.
Well, this is exactly what happened to Ainhoa and Alex on Temptation Island. And the most curious thing is that none of them expected it. They were supposed to come so Ainhoa could overcome her dependency and insecurity. And it turns out that in the end, it's Alex who has doubted, who has cried, and who has felt fragile and insecure.
We came because you're dependent on me, but I realized I'm more dependent on you than you are on me.
This is something that happens in our relationships, and I find it super interesting to analyze, because in relationships, things often aren't as they seem. In this video, we'll explain from a psychological perspective what may have happened, helping you better understand yourself and improve your relationships. If you don't watch or like the show, don't worry, I'll summarize it for you. Ainhoa and Alex arrive on the island with a very clear problem. She is the insecure one, the dependent one, the one who overwhelms him and exhausts him. Alex, on the other hand, appears independent, confident, strong, a high-performance athlete, disciplined and focused. They believe that Ainhoa needs to learn to let go, to be independent, and not to rely so much on Alex.
She's very dependent. She needs to learn to be alone.
Right, doesn't she? In theory, she is the problem and they come to work on it. As expected, Ainhoa has a hard time as soon as the experience begins. She feels anxiety, insecurity, fear, but she tells herself, I trust my partner, I know he loves me, I know what we have, so I can handle it.
I was struggling but told myself I had to keep going for him and us.
That is, Ainhoa shows that she is able to regulate herself in her partner's absence. This is a very healthy sign, and it doesn't indicate any pathological emotional dependence. By the way, at the end of this video, I'm going to leave you a video I made explaining how to really identify emotional dependence. Because I think nowadays we're calling things emotional dependence when they really aren't. Let's continue. The thing is, while Ainhoa is feeling stronger, more confident, and more balanced, we see that Alex is going through the opposite process. He enters the island thinking he's going to have a great time, that his friends will have to hold him back, and that Ainhoa would have a really terrible time.
I thought I was going to enjoy it. I even thought my friends would have to hold me back sometimes.
And as the days went by, his feelings of fragility, vulnerability, fear, and insecurity kept growing. We know that the island shows the contestants images and phrases taken out of context. They carry out emotional manipulation to make infidelity more likely in couples. We've had many seasons already. Everyone knows about this, and everyone knows you have to keep a cool head and be very rational. And Ainhoa herself keeps this internal self-instruction of, don't let yourself be fooled. But Alex, who always reminded her to keep a cool head, can't manage to follow his own advice. In fact, with rather innocent, funny phrases taken out of context,
You will be the
stepfather of the rookie, talking like a cat.
There she is, talking about your sister.
Do you know what it means to be a stepfather?
Of course. The stepfather is the second father
Of the other. He goes into catastrophizing mode and is unable to self-regulate. He can't stand this feeling of dependence, which is new to him, and impulsively and abruptly decides to leave the program. Do you see the difference I'm trying to point out? Both have experienced the same thing inside themselves, but Ainhoa has been able to regulate it, while for Alex, that emotion has overwhelmed him.
Me, look at me.
I haven't eaten or slept for a day.
Do you think I was having a good time?
Alright then, what could be behind this dramatic turn of events? Behind this psychological plot twist? Well, first of all, we have to talk about what are called roles, whether in a relationship, with friends, or in your family. Have you ever noticed that in some situations you might be the quietest or most passive one, the one who just goes along, or the one who keeps things to themselves? While maybe in another group, you're the one who knows things, the one who starts conversations, the one who tries to cheer others up, the one who encourages plans. We're not the same person in different groups and environments, and there's a reason for that. In psychology, this is called an assigned role. Naturally, in each relational context, we tend to take on a role, a way of being, a way of contributing to how the group or the couple works, in this case. He is strong, he is a very strong person with a cool head. I don't get it. In every friend group, there's always a funny one, a responsible one who looks after everyone, and someone who always has problems they bring to the group. In families, it's similar. There's the independent one, the black sheep who gets blamed, and the mediator always stuck in the middle. And well, in a relationship, the same thing happens. But how are these roles formed? Obviously, it's not like one day you show up and they hold a ceremony and crown you and say, from now on, you're the responsible one in the group. It's something that is built little by little, through small interactions, through reactions, through responses. From what you unconsciously learn is reinforced or punished in that group or in that relationship. For example, maybe when you showed vulnerability, your family didn't know how to respond well, and you learned that it's not a safe place to be vulnerable. And so you took on the role of I don't need help. Or maybe in a relationship, when you completely break down, that's when you see the other person step up, comfort you, and truly see you. So you take on the role of the one who's not okay, often without realizing it. Sometimes you get stuck in a character, in a role. And what's more, the role, the character of each member feeds into the roles of the others. You came here because you were very dependent on him. It's like an ecosystem where each species has its function and purpose so that everything stays in balance. Does this sound familiar to you? Have you played a role in your family, group, or relationship for so long that you're unsure if it's really you? This becomes especially interesting clinically. Once the system puts you in a role, the system itself makes sure to keep you there. How does it do that? Well, by reacting differently, or rather, negatively, when you try to step out of that role. For example, if you're the funny one in the group and one day you show up feeling sad and want to ask for advice, maybe you'll notice your friends get uncomfortable or don't really know how to react. And you unconsciously get the message that there's no room for this here, so you go back to how you usually are. I'm leaving, I can't take it anymore. He's not like that, Sandra. And then you see how both you and your friends go back to normal and feel relieved. This is called system homeostasis. The tendency of every group, family, or couple to always return to their state of balance, for each person to fulfill their assigned role. Even if that balance isn't always healthy, and even if sometimes, in fact, it hurts some of those people, the system always prefers what is familiar over change. But there's still more. Over time, that role stops being something you do and becomes something you believe you are. It's no longer just, in this group, I'm the responsible one. It's more like I start to think that I'm the responsible one and I always have to behave that way wherever I go. In that way, sometimes the role becomes an identity. And as we know, changing your identity is much more threatening and much harder than changing a behavior. Because if I have always been the strong one and suddenly I feel like I need help, the question arises, who am I if I'm not the strong one? That is, an identity crisis can appear. Okay, Claudia Nicolasa, but why are you telling us this? How does it relate to the case? I don't know much about Alex and Ainhoa's lives, but it's clear they both entered the relationship with assigned roles. Maybe because of their own relationship, or maybe because of other experiences with partners, friends, or even family. Ainhoa surprises herself on the island with her ability to guide herself and self-regulate.
In the end, I proved to myself that I'm stronger than I thought. Because he always used to tell me, you're jealous.
And what I find even more interesting, Alex is surprised and feels overwhelmed because he doesn't recognize himself in that insecure, fearful, needy, emotionally dependent side of himself. And I think that's the reason why Alex has fallen apart so much.
I couldn't see myself like that. I'm a very strong person.
By always being strong and independent, maybe she's never let herself explore her dependent side. And since he's never gotten to know that part of himself that needs someone else, he has no experience in how to handle that side. He doesn't recognize, understand, or have the tools to deal with it. When your identity says, I am strong and I am independent, but then you feel a strong emotional dependence, well, something doesn't add up. Sometimes, what conflicts with our self-awareness, self-concept, and role causes a crisis.
I swear, I was so exhausted, I've never seen myself like that before.
On the other hand, Ainhoa, since she was already familiar with that dependent side of herself, has been able to manage it. This is like in therapy when someone with difficult experiences comes in, compared to someone who's never faced anything bad.
I had never seen myself this way before.
You can see how the first person can easily handle what completely overwhelms the second one. Because for the second person, that's something new. They don't understand it, they don't have the tools.
I've been crying since the second day, love, since the second day.
But so have I. In the end, emotional regulation is like a muscle, and muscles that aren't trained just don't respond when you need them. And of course, if maybe you've never had to run or lift something heavy, then maybe you don't have that muscle. And this is exactly what I think happened to Alex. Rigid roles are a trap for everyone.
You know what's going to happen there. I know perfectly well what a flirt you are. What does scare me is that you might suffer a little more because emotionally, I think it could be harder for you.
When a relationship needs one person to be strong and the other to be weak in order to work, what's really happening is that neither of them can be their whole self. They can't integrate both sides. The one who takes on the weak role can't bring out their leadership, autonomy, strength, or self-regulation in the relationship.
And the truth is, you're jealous and you get angry. The dependence she has on me.
It's just so shameless, and the one who takes on the strong role can't connect with their fear, their needs, their vulnerability, or their insecurities.
In the past, I was quite a player. If there are really beautiful girls, really beautiful, obviously it's going to be hard for me.
And that's where that ticking time bomb is, because the truth is, all of us have both parts, both sides. And when you're forbidden, even unconsciously, to show a part of yourself, that part doesn't disappear and it ends up causing conflicts. Alright, now that we understand how this system worked, what is it that made it change? While Ainhoa acted as the dependent one needing to address her insecurity, Alex never had to self-reflect. The role of I'm the strong one and the one who puts up with the insecure one gave him a comfortable position. And above all, a position that allows you not to have to ask yourself, what do I feel? How much do I depend on this person? Am I afraid of losing her? What would happen to me if I lost her? Always being in that role of having to be the one who regulates the other person keeps you from looking into what you feel. But on the island, things have changed. Ainhoa isn't present, she doesn't communicate, she doesn't give feedback, she doesn't make demands, and on top of that, it turns out she's grown, she's become stronger. She hasn't done what was expected of her, and she hasn't gone after him. In other words, she hasn't played her role in the system, and that has allowed Alex to step out of his own role. It's like two children playing on a seesaw, and suddenly the one on the bottom leaves. So the one who was on top starts to go down, and for the first time, they can see the park from a different perspective. As I mentioned before, if you haven't experienced this perspective, you might panic when you do. With this, I think it's pretty clear why Alex reacted that way, what the background was, and why everything suddenly changed. But there are still more interesting things, so let's go to the bonfire. When they tell Ainhoa that Alex wants to leave the show, she doesn't understand. The first thing she does is rely on her memory, review what she's done, review her behavior, like, have I done something wrong? And the answer she gives herself is no. This is also a sign of mental health. Because people with very low self-esteem, with a lot of insecurity, or with intense fear, sometimes when faced with a conflict, the first thing they do is assume they've done something wrong, that they are the problem. Or on the contrary, what they do is react with anger, defensiveness, attacks, and accusations. But Ainhoa doesn't do this. She remains firm yet calm in her judgment, while Alex enters angrily, torn between wanting distance and seeking reassurance. Watch closely what Ainhoa does. Love, honey, come here, says Ainhoa.
Amor, cariño, nene, por favor.
She doesn't get defensive, she doesn't counterattack, she doesn't try to rationalize, she meets him with emotional openness and unconditional acceptance. She validates how Alex might be feeling even if she doesn't understand why he's acting that way.
My love, you know you're the one for me, and how often I've said I want to leave.
She gives him words of affirmation, constantly seeks physical contact, kneels down to be at his level when he hunches over to cry, and very interestingly, she offers him her hand even though Alex pulls his away in protest. In other words, she doesn't respond to his attacks with more attacks. Offering this kind of support and this response that combines security with empathy is not easy. It's one of the most difficult emotional skills to find. And notice that the one doing it is supposedly the insecure one, the weak one, the one who was considered the problem. Take note. Alex pulls away, shuts himself off, pulls his hand back when Ainhoa reaches out to him, but at the same time he's still there. He still wants her comfort, he still wants the security she gives him. This somehow reminds me of the behavior of a helpless child with their attachment figure. The child who gets angry with his mom, who turns his back on her, who says he doesn't love her, but doesn't go anywhere, and at the same time is very eager to receive confirmation, validation, and love from his mother. Because deep down, he needs her to be there. Not to give up, to keep offering him the bond that he doesn't know how to ask for. Ainhoa welcomes him without judging him, without giving up, or punishing him for pulling his hand away. I'm not saying Alex is a child and Ainhoa his mother, okay? But when we connect with that childlike part that feels helpless, fragile, vulnerable, not childlike in a negative way, but in the sense of a basic need, sometimes what we want is to test the bond, to make small attacks, and have the other person respond well. That strengthens relationships and builds emotional security. For example, it also occurs between patients and psychologists. With this, I don't mean that you have to put up with everything or accept mistreatment or anything like that. This is called surviving the attack, and it's something that's been developed a lot by an author named Winnicott, in case you want to look him up. But it's about building a secure base, seeing that the person is emotionally available and sees you even when you shut down, when you pull away. Seeing that they don't respond to your attack with more attacks, that they convey an "I'm still here when you're ready." Have you ever pulled away, shut down, or said "I'm fine" in a tone that means the exact opposite? Sometimes you might feel the urge to test if the other person is still there even when you attack the relationship, which is exactly what Alex does at the bonfire. An attack on the bond isn't aggression toward the other person, it's a fear-driven behavior that ironically endangers the relationship. He wants to leave the show, pull away, withdraw his hand, point fingers, close himself off. Why do we do this? Because the fear of losing someone is so strong, the nervous system triggers fight or flight, which can look like not needing that person. It's a twisted way of saying if I leave first, then you can't abandon me. And the thing is, saying I'm afraid of losing you can be really hard when all your life it's yourself you've been afraid of losing. Not to mention that being able to express "I'm afraid of losing you" requires a connection with vulnerability that sometimes hasn't been developed yet. That's what happened to Alex until now. Now comes the most revealing moment of the bonfire. The show plays footage of Ainhoa on the island crying, having a hard time, saying that she misses him. And then something completely changes in Alex. He goes up to her, hugs her, apologizes, kisses her, and says something very human and meaningful. It hurts me to see her like that, but I like seeing that she was thinking of me. And after saying it, he smiles.
It hurts to see her like that, but I appreciate that she was thinking of me even while struggling.
This doesn't mean that Alex needs to see his partner suffer in order for him to feel good, nor does it mean that they're equating love with suffering for your partner. No, this goes much deeper than that. This shows that as a couple, and I think especially Alex, they've gone through a huge experiential learning process. They've learned that he can have needs at the same time that she has needs. That she can be strong at the same time that he is strong. If you look at this system of fixed roles, at this seesaw in the playground I was telling you about, Alex's mind somehow assumed that if he was feeling bad, it was because Ainhoa didn't love him anymore. He assumed there had been a role reversal, but when he saw that Ainhoa could miss him and feel bad at the same time that she could be having a good time with her friends and being strong, and when he saw that she could need him at the same time that he could feel he needed her, it was as if everything fell apart, as if they could finally escape the rigidity of their old roles, a breakthrough, a turning point. Everything settles again, but healthier than before. In more clinical terms, they have moved out of a more polarized position and have been able to integrate both sides within themselves. In other words, there doesn't have to be a strong one and a weak one anymore. Both of them have that need and that strength within themselves. I thought it was a beautiful bonfire. I agree with Sandra that they are really cute, and I think this experience has been much more therapeutic for them than they realize. I think this is one of the few cases where going to Temptation Island has actually helped at all. This is not advice or a recommendation, because Alex and Ainhoa have managed to break those rigid roles. They have stepped out of that strong and weak system. They have integrated into themselves and their relationship the two parts we all possess and must accept, feel, and express. The part that asks for presence, confirmation, validation, attention. That part that can feel dependent, insecure, needy. And that other part, strong, independent, caring, protective, and regulating. Both parts are not only compatible, they go hand in hand. And my recommendation for a healthy and balanced relationship is that both of you stay connected to both parts and operate from both. I hope you liked this video. Up next is the one on emotional dependence. Bye.